Hey everyone, welcome to Passive Play. So today we have Zatima Season 2, Episode 7, titled Mind Over Matter. So we open up with Fatima running up the stairs to see why Zach is moaning and owning, and he's up there with the side chick pussy toy that she bought him, basically climaxing at the time that she's downstairs. Now he says that it's the best he's ever had, and out of spite. Shout out to Drake, and Fatima hits him with a pillow, and he does say it doesn't squirt soda. How that tastes? He's like, but it don't do that. And Fatima's like, ain't nothing like the real thing. Basically, ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. And I did say in the last review of the last episode that I hope that this was kind of going to break the ice between them, but maybe they would connect a little bit, kind of laugh at it, and maybe let their guards down and kind of have a real conversation. But they just kind of started attacking each other again, and it didn't really go anywhere. Um, and Fatima leaves, and we end up following Zach to go see his friend Tony, and we find out that Tony owns 3 barbershops. And between Tony and Nate, Tony is the most level-headed friend of Zach, especially when you consider how Nathan's trifling himself operates. So Zach ends up telling Tony that he came out of Deja's house last night with her, trying to seduce him basically in the bathtub, on the couch, naked in the tub and everything. And Fatima ends up seeing him come out of the house with a heart on, and she doesn't even react. She doesn't ask questions, but she does get out of this random dude's car that Zach has never seen before. And he's like, I didn't ask her about the dude because how suspect I looked. And Tony's like, that's not good. When she reacts, you know that she cares. If she doesn't care, it's over. So if she's not reacting, then that may mean that she doesn't care anymore, and that's not where you want to be. He does also let Zach know that the elevator incident is trending online. World Star? Just kidding. I don't know if it's World Star, and it may be in the world of Tyler Perry. It may still be World Star, but it's trending online because it was recorded again. Somebody released it. And Tony's overall advice is for Zach to take a step back and assess his relationship and choices in being with Fatima, and make sure that Fatima and marriage is what Zach really wants. Basically, just take a step back and kind of assess everything. If you really want her, you really love her, then fine, be with her. But if it isn't working, end it now. Don't let it continue on, which isn't technically bad advice. But as Zach is leaving out of the barbershop, he talks to Mr. Tyrone, the older barber, and Tyrone's like, Zach, listening to these young dudes for advice, for relationship advice, is a no-no. You need wisdom from people who are wise. You need wisdom from people who actually have wisdom. I don't know Fatima personally, but I hear what people say about her, and she's a good woman. And you're saying that it's all her, but it's you too. And Zach does admit that, yeah, he has problems, he has things going on. But basically, he's like, you both got problems that need dealing with. And he lets Zach know, don't be a fool, don't be a fool, and don't let Fatima go when you had her and end up regretting it later because you couldn't grow up and say, you couldn't grow up and be like, it's all her. It's not me. I know it's not me, it's you, kind of a thing. And he's like, just kind of admit your misgivings or whatever and own up to it and try to make it right. Because I've made that mistake before, and I've run through a lot of good women, and now I'm like, he's divorced, and I guess out here in the streets, whatever Mr. Tyrone is doing, and he basically just kind of warns like, don't be a fool like Nathan. And overall, he doesn't really say it. I mean, he does say Tyrone does tell Zach to find people who are wise, but overall, Zach needs to find some married people with successful or at least people with committed relationships that are healthy and get advice from them. He needs to be around some like happy, married, successful, healthy, relationship driven kind of men and women. And even if you look at the sisters, a lot of them, yeah, a lot of them, their relationships are interesting too. You know, they say sometimes it's the company that you keep. Not to say that these are bad people, but some of their decision makings are like a little bit questionable. You know, but at the end of the day, Nathan's marriage is not healthy, and Tony is still single and out here mingling with people. They are not the best ones to get advice from for his relationship with Fatima. Now we go to Fatima, who doesn't end up going to work. She ends up stopping by Dr. Reed's office, and she runs into Paul, who's still trying to shoot his shot, though he respects Fatima's relationship with Zach. And he tries to give Fatima his number, and she's like, "No, you keep that, boo. Keep that to yourself. I don't need it." And after that kind of interaction, Fatima actually goes and sits down with Dr. Reed and inquires for Zach to see him. I will say too, Fatima looked really great in this episode. She had like this purple, kind of a little bit of the shade of the dress that Angela Bassett wore to the Oscars, but she had like this really cool purple. I go as far as like purple. I would never do pink or anything, but I like purple. But anyway, she had this like purple skirt, but it had like this kind of cool slash. It was like she looked really great. Um, and the Dr. Reed and Paul was like, he said you were really beautiful, and she is, but she looked really cool in this episode. And so, you know, she's like, I'm inquiring for Zach to see you basically. And Dr. Reed is like, is this just for Zach or for both of you as a couple? Fatima's like both. But if we help Zach, then we'll both be fine. And Dr. Reed starts jotting down some notes on his notepad. And Fatima's like, hold up, wait a minute, what are you writing? And she's like, no, it's not me. It's him. It's Zach. And Dr. Reed says it's probably somewhere in the middle of who's to blame or where the problem lies in most relationships. When a person is not whole, they will choose a partner that gives them what they want rather than what they need. And it usually stems from childhood or parent-child relationships, which we know at this point that Zach has in spade between his traumatic childhood when his mother was around versus being in the foster care and the different interactions that he had with his mother when she was high or doing stuff in the, you know, with the truckers at the truck stops or at the gas station. And I really couldn't say it better myself. At this point, I want to meet him with Dr. Reed too, but I already said this in like the last 4 episode reviews for the most part. I mean, I worded it a little bit differently, but I basically said the same thing. Fatima says Zach is not open to therapy and doesn't think there's a problem. And Dr. Reed is like you, because you said there's no problem with you too. Fatima's like, I have an idea. I'm throwing a dinner with my friend and her ex, Angela and Bryce. Can you show up as a friend and basically kind of therapize on the side and assess everything incognito? Dr. Reed agrees and says he'll do it, but would rather be honest from the get go. But he's like, you know, I'll show up to the dinner. You know, I'll pretend to be a friend of your friend, but I would rather you do it honestly. And I say the actor that they picked to play the therapist is pretty good casting. He looks like a therapist. He has like a little, like a polo shirt with a he either had like a vest or like a sweater combo on top of it. He sounds like someone who gives advice, kind of, you know, pretty good. I think pretty good casting on that because you believed instantly like he was a therapist. I was like, okay. And from there, we end up going to Zach, who's walking into his office, and Valerie and Bryce are like in like the main, I guess like in the reception area, and they tell him about this developer who's going bankrupt, and one of his properties is worth $6 million and is up to buy, and that the profitability on it is triple guaranteed. And I think it's basically like it's not a house like they've been flipping houses and stuff. This is like a condominium, like a high rise, or like a bunch of condos. And I think they said maybe like I think they said maybe 30% of it was already sold. And so they would need to, they're buying the full property, but they also would need to sell the other condos that have not been sold yet. And, basically it's money within, you're buying it for 6 million, 30% of it's already sold. You'd have to sell, I guess, the other 70%, but basically they're like, it basically sells itself. And they let him know that he would need to put in $2 million, but he's like, I don't have the money and can't do it right now. And he tells Bryce it the first time. Valerie leaves, and then he kind of tells it to Bryce, asks Zach again, and Zach is like, "Stop pressuring me, makes me want to scream." Shout out to Janet and Michael. But Zach is like, I don't have the money. I can't do it. And Zach says he has a lot going on, which he does, and this is not on his list of priorities. And Bryce gets offended and says, good to know. The same way he kind of reacted with Angela when he was like, well, who was that man who was walking out of here? And she's like, that's none of your business. And he's like, that's where we at. And she's like, basically. And Bryce is, he's starting to act like he's starting to play the victim, and it's of his own doing. He's acting like he doesn't understand why Zach and Angela are acting the way that they're acting. It's just very awkward since everybody kind of knows what he did. Angela's like, I don't even know how to talk to this or kind of state how I feel about it. That's why she wanted to have the dinner in the first place. But the way that Bryce is acting, I guess I really do understand why she would like, I need backup, somebody to help me, maybe allocate how I say it or the way I say it, just to make sure that I'm not like, maybe she's trying not to offend him, even though she's like, I want someone who likes women and wants to be with women, not want to be with women and men too. She's not judging him. She's just like, that's not what she's looking for. And that's fair. I mean, at the end of the day. Then we go, and then from there we end up going back to the law firm, and we're in Fatima's office, and Angela drops by, and basically she agrees to call Dr. Reed so Fatima can save face and not look like a liar, technically. So it looks like Angela invited Dr. Reed and not Fatima. So basically, talk to Dr. Reed, kind of set up a story so you two can basically look like you two decided to come. This was done through Angela and not me. I mean, now now there was a scene. This was what episode, I don't know, was it maybe episode 3 or 4? Zach was in the car crying, and she said that they would get help, and Zach agreed. So I mean, he just kind of has to remind him of that. I don't think that she really had to lie in this case. She was just like, I'll just be like, I followed up and found a therapist. If you remember that night in the car, I followed up and found a therapist. I don't think that she really needs to go through to these lengths to get a therapist, right? Some people make house calls. You can do it online now, virtually. Zach don't even necessarily have to go into the office to see the man. He can just do it online if he's like uncomfortable going there. But I mean, like, I don't think she really had to go through these lengths because he had agreed. Yeah, it was like a specific like emotional moment, but it's like you agreed. She could go with him, sit on the outside. She could go in there with him if he wants to do it that way. I mean, I think Fatima was pretty supportive for the most part. But either way, yeah, I don't think that she really had to do all that, but it's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, as long as he gets the help, as long as they get the help, I mean, and Dr. Reed so far seems like he might actually be a decent therapist. They got all these reviews and things that have been that and the success stories of the people that he's helped as far as his Zatima world. So we'll see. But then we end up going back to Zach's office, and Nate and Tony show up, and Nate is still blaming Fatima for him cheating and his wife catching them. And Zach is like, she is not the one to play with, and neither am I. And Tony chimes in like, she carries a gun. And Zach is basically tells Tony that you need to let this go. I know that look that you have on your face, and it looks like he's trying to get revenge. And basically, he's like, you're gonna find yourself with a neck brace like Deja, and if you keep effing around, it's not gonna end well for you, basically. And and Nate needs to understand that it was not personal. Fatima has got cheated on before, and she thought that it would be really foul to let Nate's stressed out wife with the bat, she did have a bat and was ready to to like break some bones, not know that her intuition was right about Nate cheating. She's like, I've been in that position before and I did not like it, and it would be bogus of me to know this and not do something about it. Now, if Nate and Deja had been in Deja's apartment, then that would have been a different story. But the fact that they were on Zach and Fatima's, property in their hot tub, I'm like, well, that's on y'all, right? So I mean, I don't feel bad for Nathan. I don't even feel bad for Deja. They made their choices and they have to deal with the consequences. And from there, we move on to Tony can't hold water because he told Nate that Zach still isn't, having sex with Fatima. And at this point, I mean, they keep saying that, but it's like sometimes, depending on, what's going on with certain people, you might need to take a break. Um, you can, too much. You can have too much of a good thing, and if he's like well endowed or whatever, it may be, it may. I mean, after a while, you can do it to the point where it starts to hurt. And Fatima is like, I need a break. It's yeah. She's like it's not supposed to be painful. So she was saying, 4 to 6 times a day. Now, if he's doing it every day, that's what 7 times. 7 times. Oh my God, 7. Yeah, 7 times 6. I'm sorry. Let's say we do 6. So 6 times 7 is what, like 42. Um, so that's a lot of times. I mean, in a week, that's kind of crazy. And of course, I think this started when his mom came back. Maybe he's transferring those emotions and feelings into sex. Maybe trying to get a release of it through that way. But Fatima's like, Roxy needs a break, and which is what she calls her friend down there. I don't right. Um, so she's like, I need a break, and it's too much. And I mean, that's fair. And so I don't think in this show it's like been a couple days. It's not like it's been weeks. This is like literally that episode was like maybe a day or two ago in their like world or in their universe, however they're kind of doing it. And so I think that that's fair. She's not asking him to like to not, she's like, just give me a couple days, give me a few days or whatever amount of time that she needs to kind of recuperate. Um, and now Nate ends up bringing up this dating profile that has photos of Fatima, but they're not really sure that it is Fatima. And he decides that he's going to message the fake this profile that may or may not be real, could be fake. And He also says that he doesn't use real photos because his wife his wife is probably checking the dating sites to see if he has a profile out there. So he has a profile that he doesn't use his real photos. So he's like, Fatima isn't going to recognize me if it is her. And he keeps trying to find fault with Fatima, I guess, to validate I don't know, to validate what? I don't know, that he's a cheater and he cheats on his wife and he doesn't respect his marriage. Like he keeps trying to find something on Fatima to, I don't know, to be like he was right. I mean, you're still wrong. Right. You're not right. So I think that's what he's trying to do. It's really petty. It's like, just work on your own damn marriage and your relationship and leave them the hell alone. But Nate doesn't do that. So either way, he messages this dating profile of Fatima, and he is messaged back to meet her at the south stairwell at 4:30 p.m. at the law firm in the parking lot, or the south stairwell in the parking lot of the law firm at 4:30. And Zach is like, that's not Fatima's profile. Now Nate and Tony end up leaving to go down there to see and to prove that it is Fatima. And Zach is like, I don't care, I don't believe it. They're like, fine then. And then he ends up, after they leave, like, like probably within like 30 seconds, he ends up grabbing his suit jacket and he runs out the door. And coincidentally, too, he gets a text from Fatima saying she'll be an hour late. And basically, as he's running out of the office after them, or like 30 seconds after Tony and Nate leaves, that's actually where the episode ends. But Fatima does coincidentally message him that she's going to be like an hour late or something before that, and the episode ends. So then you got like some questions, couple questions. Will Fatima convince Zach to go to this dinner with Bryce because they're already uncomfortable at work? How will Dr. Reed evaluate Bryce and Angela? Will he be able to get down to the truth of it all between Fatima and Zach? Because it isn't all Fatima and Zach, but a bit of them both. Will Dr. Reed be able to help them all, especially Bryce, who doesn't seem to understand why everybody is side-eyeing him, who seems like I don't get why everyone is this way with me. I just don't understand. And I think at this point they're gonna need to hide the guns and wine only. No hard liquor allowed at this dinner, because who knows how it's gonna go. And is this Fatima's profile, or is she being catfished by somebody at her job? I mean, if it is, I mean, I don't think it's Fatima, but if it let's say it's not Fatima, then it has to be somebody, maybe at work, maybe somebody else at work is using her profile to do some stuff there, because the profile said they like having public sex or whatever. So they may be using her profile to get the guy there or the girl there or whatever, but it's not most likely going to be Fatima. But what do you think will happen in the next episode? Did you like this review? Hit the like button if you did. Comment below. Did I miss anything? Did you like what I said? Let me know what you think. Subscribe. Help the channel grow. Other than that, I will see you next time. Goodbye.